All right, going live in three, two, one. Well, this is episode one of Stream of Thoughts with Kelly and me. I'd like to bring Kelly on board. How are you doing this evening, Kelly?
Hi, I'm doing great. Thanks for
That's,
having me. Looking forward
that's
to it.
really always nice to have you on board. And well, for this evening, I do have a couple of questions. I'm not sure if I showed you all the questions that I have on my YouTube channel. I think I asked you a few of them. Let me go back through some of these. And we'll go through a question of the day. If I've already asked you this one, let me know. Is it
Okay.
this was asked a month ago on my YouTube channel. I don't think I asked you this one, but is it okay to wear socks with sandals? Did I ask you that question?
No, we have talked about bare feet, but not, they're called shoebies.
Shoebies? People who was that people who wear
Shoebies,
socks?
yeah, when they wear socks with shoes, that's a Rocket Power reference for 90s kids cartoon fans.
Oh, okay.
Shoebie.
No, sorry, I'm not familiar with that one. Okay. The
Yeah,
so
it's
let
like
me
a surfer boy reference.
so what would your answer be on that one?
I I haven't committed to it, although I find it very useful when camping. If you
Okay.
have some nice sandals and you're keeping your feet warm from a cold night, it's nice to just throw some sandals on in the morning, sit by a campfire. But will I wear it as a fashion statement choice? Probably not.
Okay. Okay. I
Functionality,
would
yes. Fashion, no.
Okay, for practicality purposes, everything's okay. But yeah, out in public, if you're just walking through the mall, absolutely not is what you're saying. So okay, yeah,
Do that.
I could agree with that. I would have to say it probably depends on the situation, but unfortunately, that wasn't one of the responses. So the responses I have were no, yes, obviously. I don't have an opinion about this, and I'd rather not say. So overwhelmingly, I'll bring the responses up here. We had 74% said yes, it's okay to wear socks with sandals, which I was surprised. I thought it'd be much lower than that. So
Wait, 74 said yes. Oh, okay. That's surprising.
yeah,
It
the
is comfortable.
not 18% said no, and the other 9% were basically they didn't have opinion or they'd rather not say. So and personally, I would never want to wear it outside in public. It just seems a little weird, tacky looking sometimes. But you said, as you said, with the practicality thing, if you're out in the camp, if you're out camping or something, it would probably be pretty good, especially if you don't want to step on something that might, if you're out camping, I could imagine. I haven't been camping before, but I assume you do that a lot.
Quite a bit, yeah. Or slippers, moccasins. Have you tried the toe socks?
No, the ones that like for individual toes.
Yeah, have you tried
No,
those?
I've not. Are those comfortable?
I have no idea. I've never tried. They kind of freak me out. Can't imagine an individual sock for my toe. It's just too much.
And
But those would
also,
be good with flip-flops.
well, that's true. But it might look a little better, actually, I guess, in some ways. You're just to let you know, your microphone has got a little bit of a static again. Do you want to unplug that and plug that in again? See if that helps.
Mhm. Let me set this up too.
We're having a little bit of a technical issue. So it would just be one little second here until we get everything back up.
How are we doing now?
Oh, that sounds much better. That sounds much
Okay,
better.
perfect.
Yes. Alrighty. So for this show, well, I keep on saying this evening, but it could be morning, night, afternoon, wherever you are in the world right now. Um, for this show, we wanted to discuss the movie Baraka, and this is a movie that you had just recently seen, very recently, as a matter of fact. Only as a matter of fact, within the past hour. That's how recent it's been for you. So
It's fresh.
very, very. What was your impression of this movie? I will give a little bit of a more detailed explanation in a minute, but I want to hear your honest response or reaction to it.
Love it. Yeah, it's an amazing movie. As a photographer myself, the cinematography is amazing. I love how there isn't any narration, so it's all imagery. And a lot of people would find that very boring, but there's some powerful messages just through that imagery and the sound and the music. It's really beautifully done. It takes you on a journey. It's kind of letter to the human race. And I really love that. And it's got a lot of great, powerful meaning to it. So I would highly recommend it.
Okay, so just for anyone who's wondering what the movie is about, it's a movie that was made by Ron Frick and Mark Magnuson. I think I'm pronouncing his last name correct. And Ron Frick also, I believe, was part of the production for the movie that came out 10 years earlier called Koyaanisqatsi, which is also very similar to this style of movie, but he was not the main producer. He wasn't the main ass. He didn't have the main, what do you call it? He wasn't the main producer of the movie. I forget his official title, but he did have something to do with that movie as well. So, but if you're familiar with either Koyaanisqatsi or the Baraka movies, they're very similar. This movie in particular came out in 1992. And
when I was born.
That's when you were born. I didn't know that. Okay.
Yeah, I was born then.
Just a little baby then. The movie itself goes through. I'm trying to figure out how many countries. I think it was like 24 countries. I don't remember how many exactly.
Wow.
But it goes through at least a couple of dozen. Yeah, I'm going through it right now. 24 countries, and it took 14 months to make the film itself. And as Kelly was saying earlier, there's no dialogue in the movie or no narration of any kind. There is, you could call it some talking if you want to refer to. There's a scene where the monks are doing the monkey chant, where they're going back and forth. That's the extent of it. I don't know if you really call that talking though, but that's the only part of it that would be considered talking throughout the entire movie. It was done during the first Persian Gulf War. So there's a lot of imagery of the oil fields that were set on fire back then. There's also a lot of other peaceful imagery that's shown. It also goes into the fast life of Japanese life. I remember seeing a lot of fast-paced motion with Japanese, and also but I'm trying to remember how many different cultures. I remember the Australian Aborigine people were in there, also people from South America, and it really gives when I first saw it, to give my reaction, I was like, I thought of it as a National Geographic magazine with put to a movie. If you've ever read an old National Geographic magazine, it's like the imagery was so good, and it's like they decided to take that magazine and make a movie out of it without any dialogue. That's the best way. When I originally saw it, that's what I first thought of. The music flows with the imagery. It goes almost perfect. I can't think of anything that's wrong with it. And there was a sequel that came out. Would you like to discuss the sequel to that? Yes.
I came across Samsara on Netflix a while ago, and it was one of those movies that I wanted to show everybody. It's really well done. It's got some amazing scenes. It kind of reminds me of like performance art. There's a lot of beautifully done like scenes where it's about people's relationships as well as cultural differences, and they're all stacked in at a pretty steady pace. So a lot of build up in a lot of places, because a lot of people would think that a movie that is just imagery would lose your attention, but this grabs you at every minute because it's so fast paced and turning over all the time. And I noticed that Samsara has a very similar build up as Baraka, which I think is amazing because it's like he revisited the same piece and did it again with bigger imagery, bigger scenes, more topics. There's this really amazing scene where he's in a prison camp and they're all doing this movement dancing that's synchronized, and that's a really cool scene. They have also a lot of similarities where they do talk about that Japanese culture, the assembly line, and the food market. And he always has this glue with the indigenous tribes throughout the whole film, where it's talking about like the tattoos, the makeup, and then reaching back to that indigenous culture and how it flows into different parts of the world. And it really unites everyone, I think, in a lot of ways. It shows our differences, but also our similarities. Even though it's different locations, he tries to connect them all in a really beautiful way. So I think both films are powerful in their own way, But Sam Saroff, seeing it for the first time, it was really beautiful imagery. It's
Okay,
like an
here's some.
updated version.
Yeah, the this movie, Sam Saroff, came out in 2011. For those who are not familiar, and the funny part is, I've always been a huge fan of Baraka. I didn't know this movie came out till at least 4 or 5 years after this one came out. So I was like, oh my goodness, there's a sequel, and I've yet to see this movie all the way through. And the reason for that is because I'm usually really busy, and I want to give my whole attention to it. And I know if I'm doing something else, I'm just going to miss something, and I don't want to miss any of the imagery or any of the music that goes through it. So I've probably only seen at the most maybe the first probably 20 minutes, 25 minutes. I've not seen the entire movie as of yet. But someday I want to sit there and devote myself just to seeing this movie from beginning to end without missing any of the details. So I don't want to get any copyrights, so I'm just going to jump through some of the images on here so we can see what's going on. Um, there we go. Go back here. Oops. Oh, okay. Now as far as
I like
this is
I like this scene a lot, actually, and it covers a very big. I in Baraka, I didn't see much influence of like American culture, but in Sam Sarah, he included it a little bit more. And some people can find this image jarring, but he shows it in a way that's like very informative. I don't feel like his work is too opinionated or subjective in any way. It's just like a lens on the world.
right,
And
and
because
it's
there's no narration, he's not pressing his opinions on you either. It's just kind of what you bring to the movie. Instead of it telling you how to feel about something, you're absorbing it and
so
observing.
as far as the movie goes, it's left up to just like Baraka. It gives you an idea to interpret it the way you want to see it, or interpret the
Exactly.
thoughts, the imagery, and the music your own way, basically. So.
Hmm. Reminds me of art and going into a gallery. It's not telling you how to feel, it's how you interpret it and bring your own experience to it.
Now, this movie, is it
That
no?
the jail scene, if you go back a little bit more, you're just there.
Let's see that
That's when
there.
they're in the courtyard and they're all synchronized doing this amazing martial arts.
Oh, okay. And now, as far as the movie, does just like Baraka. Baraka, is a lot of fast paced, and it goes back and forth. Like sometimes it's very fast, and sometimes it goes back to being very slow again.
Hmm. Yeah, it's like a roller coaster ride of different tempos to kind of let it wash over you. One of the things that bothered me just a little bit, but I think it's also very important, is that he doesn't give any locations. Like when you watch this kind of movie anywhere else, they would usually say where you are in the world, but
Yeah.
this is kind of a take on, everyone as a whole. Did you find it very distracting not knowing where exactly it is?
No, actually not at all. Actually, I was just so enthralled with what I was looking at. I was like, "Yeah, this is awesome." So, eventually, I was wondering where it was, but for the most part, I was like, I just was so fascinated with the imagery. I was like, "No, this is," it just made me appreciate the world as a whole and realize that
Mhm.
everyone, it's there's so much goodness in the world after all. When you hear all the bad things, you realize there is a lot of goodness, and the whole movie just, in my opinion, embraced a lot of the goodness that's out there. I just didn't really worry about it or think about it, to be honest. Um, I eventually did start to look it up years later. Um, there's a website that's called Spirit of Baraka, and I'm going to bring it up right
Mm.
here. And this
Okay.
website actually breaks down, just to let you know, it does break down the different locations. So spiritofbaraka.com. It also has Sam Saran. It has other movies on here as well, but the focus is Baraka. And if you go down here, it actually goes through, and you can actually scroll through and see all the different locations that were in the movie. That's how I actually found out where they all were, was by going to this website. So, uh, but as far as
Is
like,
there
was
any
there?
location you recalled having been to?
Oh, well, I've only been in. You're gonna make fun of me when I say this. I've hardly been anywhere in this world like you. I'm not a world traveler, so I've been I drove about several years ago. I drove to Florida and out to California and then back to Virginia, and that's about the extent of where I've gone. I've driven up to New York. I've driven to Pennsylvania, but that's about it. So I'm not really a world traveler. So honestly, no. Most of these places I can say oh, I can probably say almost all the places I've never been to. So, how about yourself?
Oh no, you have to live vicariously through me. You see the arch photo in the middle right there? Scroll up a little bit. That
Okay.
one is in
Okay.
Utah. That one
Okay.
right there. Yeah, that's at in Canyonlands.
Okay.
Yeah, Mesa Arch. And I've been a couple of times. I didn't go to camp out like everybody else does. A lot of photographers like to set up at that spot for sunrise because you can see the shadows on those beautiful um, you can see a little bit closer. There are some spires in the distance. So I went in the middle of the day and saw it with less people, but it's a very popular spot and it's a very short hike. So if you're ever in the Canyonlands area, it's one of those quick stops that you can go to and it's so beautiful. Right beyond that arch it just drops off hundreds of feet into the canyon. So it's really awe-inspiring. That was like 20 minutes into the film of Baraka, and I got so excited to see that. I was like, somewhere I've been. I know where that is.
I could actually relate to that when I watch movies that are made in the DC area. When they actually film a movie in the DC area, just general movies, not like these movies, but and I'm like, oh, I know, I've been there. I know that area. And it's like it's what the funny part is when when you see the people driving down a DC street and then they turn somewhere and it's like they come out somewhere else. It's not even near that. It's like, wait a minute, that doesn't make any sense. They're not even anywhere near where they're completely in a different location now. How did they get from there to there? And so,
Hollywood magic.
Yes. So, the let me go back here for a second. Now this, I would like to bring up the fact that the Baraka, there's actually if you could call it a prequel of sorts to Baraka. We didn't discuss this at all, but I'll bring it
I
up
did
over
not
here.
know.
Yeah, it's actually a much shorter movie. Here it is. It's called Chronos. So Chronos
Very cool names.
has a is basically Ron Frick's first movie. So the music is very similar. Well, it has a similar style. The imagery, some of the imagery that's used in Chronos, I think he redid it for Baraka, but it's very similar. Some of the locations are also very similar. So not all of them, just some. But this movie is much shorter. It's only 40 minutes long, and it came out in 1985. So I would have to say, if you wanted to look at Baraka, Samsara, the Cronus is probably the one that would be the grandfather of them all for Ron Frick. If you could also include Koyaanisqatsi, which is something he wasn't the head of, but he was also but was part of. So that would be kind of like the predecessor of everything, of course. But as far as Ron Frick's work goes, uh, Cronus is also one, and the music on that is pretty good. I would say that he was trying to figure out where he was going with the movies, and this was like a way to test his abilities. And he was his work in Baraka and Samsara are much better. So you can see that it's good, but it seems like the other movies that came out after this were better, in my opinion. So it's definitely a movie worth watching, though, in my opinion.
I was wondering, how did you come across Baraka? Did you see
Oh,
it on TV or did you research it?
I was with my friend, I have a friend, his name is Trevor, and he's actually come on while you were on the first few times you're on. He actually left questions in the comment section a couple of times. So Trevor and I have been friends since we were 10 years old. And we were what happened was we went over to one of his friend's house, or a friend of his, and he had a large projection TV display. It actually projected the image on the wall, and I walked in there and they were watching Baraka, and I had no idea what we were watching at the time. And so I was like, that's when I became mesmerized by this thing. We had the lights turned down, so we were like in a small theater basically. And
Perfect.
when we were watching the movie, the first thing I remember seeing, or one of the things I remembered, was and I think it was in China. Let me see if I can bring it up, where the soldiers were buried, the stone soldiers were buried beneath the earth, and they unearthed them. Do you remember that scene? Um,
Yes, yeah.
I think this is this
That was,
right here.
further in. I did find that towards the end of the movie, it took a turn where he decided to focus on the second part of life, where it's about, like, the destruction, the breakdown, the death, and then kind of reincarnation. So I thought that was really intelligent and thought-provoking and well done way to structure a video that's such a big take on such a big topic.
Mm-hmm. Oh, actually, oh, wait a minute. Oh, I was wrong. I can't answer that question you said earlier. I have been here. Yes, I've been there. I have been there to the Grand
Hey,
Central
New York
Station.
City, right?
Yes, yes, yes. I was there. I was probably only 10 years old at the time, but I have been there. So, and it was for a 10-year-old, that was pretty amazing stuff to see you walk through there. So there we go. I can finally say yes to that question. Uh, I don't
Yay!
remember.
I loved that part of the movie too. The time lapses were really amazing.
Let me see. I was trying to find those stones, soldiers, but it was. I got to be careful. Some of these images show. Oh, here we go. So it shows some young children naked. I don't want to get in trouble. This is what I'm referring to. This part right here. And do you remember this? This is the part that I was referring to. Is this the part you were thinking of when I said that?
Yeah, and I feel like he doesn't really touch on that in Sam Sarah as much.
Hmm.
Um, so I find it really fascinating.
The interesting thing about this was something I had just learned about just before I saw the movie. So I found out that these statues had been buried underneath a large mound, and they had just unearthed all of them, and they were just sitting there, and they just left when they unearthed everything, they just left them there. So that's why I was able to get the imagery of them. There's like I don't remember, I want to say dozens, maybe hundreds of them buried there, and it's really neat, really good stuff. So this doesn't
Mhm.
really show all of it. There's a lot more than that. So um
Wow. Yeah, it really piques your curiosity to do more research. It's
mhm.
really cool.
The other thing is when I first saw the movie, I didn't have like there were no smartphones at the time or anything like that. So
Oh, no. How do
so
you
what I did
Google
was
it?
I was saying to myself, I memorized that how the word was spelled. I said it's Baraka, and I kept on saying it over and over and over. So the next time I was near a computer,
Nice.
I could type it in there and see what it was about. So
Burned into your brain. Nice.
and
Now you have to burn in your brain. SAMSARA. Sam Sarah.
that's
Get
correct.
back to it. So you can
The
finish that movie. It's so beautiful.
and I liked it so much. I bought first. I bought believe it or not, I bought the VHS. That's how long ago I saw it. It was probably around 2001 when I saw 2002. So I went online. They didn't have the DVD out yet, so I had to buy the VHS. That's the only version I could get. And then they eventually came out the DVD, so I bought the DVD after that. So I have both the DVD and VHS versions of the movie.
Super fan. You got it on tape. And you have to rewind after every time.
That's true.
Don't forget to rewind.
So as far as the movie, was there anything in particular that else that really stood out for you?
Oh, there's so many things that I really loved about it. Um, particularly, I love the landscape shots. I think they're really beautiful. It kind of distracts you. I also love how it started with an eclipse and there's a lot of patterns and it will bring imagery back in throughout. So it kind of full circles big ideas. Um, it's so hard to pick a favorite part, but the opening really grabbed me with the monkeys in the
Oh,
hot spring and just how peaceful and meditative he looked. The monkeys, and then it kind of, I don't know if he did this on purpose, but kind of made me think of the evolution of from monkey to man, this, you know, trying to peacefully enjoy his hot tub time. And then it goes to a shot of a human and they're like trying to find their peace through a sacred traditional mantra ceremony. So I thought it was very interesting. The every single shot transitions into something that you can take it as meaning. So it really takes you on a journey of different ways of thinking, and that's why I really loved it. And the cinematography is amazing. I also loved this one shot where he's up really high and he's watching the clouds move, and it looks like a river in the sky.
oh,
It's
like
really beautiful.
with time lapse? Was it with time lapse so it moved really
Yeah,
fast?
it was the time lapse. I love that.
It's pretty
I
good.
loved all the time lapses, and I kind of, was sad when he moved from time lapses of landscape to time lapses of people. Um, I wonder, did you feel like the way he portrayed the food industry, did that bother you at all? A little bit, like the production side of it, the assembly lines?
The only thing, I will say this, I brought that movie into I used to work at WTOP Radio, and I worked in this one studio, and I would bring the VHS copy of this in there because we had VCRs in there at the time, and I would just play it over and over again. And people would walk into the studio while I was working, and they'd look up on the screen, and they'd see the production line, and they'd see the little birds that had their beaks burned off. The scene where the little birds with the
Oh,
little, and they go,
I
the
know.
people every time someone would walk in, they get the same kind of reaction you're giving right now. They go, "Oh my God, what are you watching here?"
I know, right? Like
Uh-huh.
it's hard to watch, but it's true, and it's crazy that that's someone's job every day. They're going in and it's animal cruelty, but it's also like mass production to feed everyone. It's you're feeling very torn and conflicted about the whole thing.
Right.
That part of it actually reminded me of a movie that was nominated for a lot of awards this recent award season. It's called Minari.
Okay, I'm not
It's
familiar.
have you heard of it?
No, I have not. I have not heard of that.
Oh, it's a really beautiful film, and the couple, the main characters, they work in a chicken factory where they check the sex of the chicken every single day, but he wants to have a farm and create a better life, and she's fine with just having that job and focusing on family. And it's kind of how the couple fights, but then at the end they realize what's more important, and that's to have each other. And then they
Hmm.
grow this minari that naturally grows, and it's traditional in their culture to grow that type of vegetable, and just kind of like opens your eyes to the different paths in life, and you kind of get your mind set on a bigger goal. You lose sight of what's more important in life, and maybe that's family, and scaling back your goals a little bit and channeling them in more positive ways.
Now what country was that in? The movie? Where did that take place?
It was filmed in Middle America,
Oh,
in
really?
the
Oh,
farm.
okay. Oh, the way you're talking almost sounded like it was another country. Wow. Okay. Okay.
Well, they are immigrants from
Oh,
another
okay.
country.
I see.
Mhm.
Now jumping back to the chicken scene right here. From what I
Mhm.
understand,
Oh, they're so cute.
well, I can actually try to bring up some other. Oh, so let me see. Bring up the from what I understand about the chicken scene, the burning off of the beaks. You probably know this already. Is to protect the chickens for when they get to be full grown, so they don't peck themselves to death. That's at least that's what I've heard. So
Aw,
um, I don't. I'm not saying
saving
it's
the
right,
cells.
but there's one thing that's really devastating. I don't know if you know this, that
Mm,
some of the chickens, the little chicks that are in there, if they're male chicks, they kill them immediately. I don't know if you know that. Uh,
yes, and that's a lesson in Minari. He tells his son, "You have to find what it is about you that's important because you're basically a male chick. So find your purpose in life." It's
let's
kind
see.
of a dark message.
I'm trying. What I'm trying to do is I'm going to bring up a couple more shots because this one's kind of not. It's kind of lacking here, so I'm trying to bring up a couple more. Give me one
Mhm.
second. Okay. Oops. There we go. Now this is the actual movie itself. I don't want to play anything because YouTube will come down on us. Unfortunately. Um, where are the chicks at? That's the end. Uh, yeah, I guess we don't have to. There's one scene in here that I was when I was at work. I'll jump back to it in a second here. No, I don't see the chicks. I don't see where they're at. It was the scene where they're dancing with these what look like dresses. Here we go. This right here. Do you
Mm,
remember this? I believe
beautiful, yeah.
I believe this is in there we go. This would be a good shot, I hope. Yeah, there we go. That would be a good shot. Um this I believe this is in Turkey maybe. I think I know the Baraka tells me. I didn't look it up before I brought this up. But I do know that when I was at work one day when I was playing this movie over and over, and one of the reporters walked in, this happened to be up on the screen, and he told me exactly where this was. His name was Derek Ward, the reporter that told me this, and he was like spouting off all the details about what they were doing. And I was like, really? And the how you it brings us back to when you asked if I was curious to as to where this was located. honestly, I wasn't really too concerned. But after he said that, I was like, oh, it made me curious as to what else was going on at that part of the movie because he gave all these details as to what the dance was, what they were doing, and it was really cool. I did, like I said, over the years, I did gain a curiosity to see where everything was. But for the first, I don't know, few years I watched this, I was just so it's just so nice to see all these images and music put together. I wasn't really too concerned with as to, what they were, where they were, who they were. I just liked the fact that everything was just blended together in such a nice way. So,
I agree. Yeah, the imagery is just so amazing. And culturally, a lot of overlaps, which is great. I
um,
think
hold on a
it
second.
brought subject to everyone has their own expression, whether it's through chanting, singing, dancing. We all have that underlying relation with each other, which is
You're
beautiful.
unfortunately we got to take another pause again. Your microphone really, really got bad right there. We could hear you definitely. Yeah, go ahead and we'll take a little pause while she unplugs her microphone and plugs it back in. She's got a little bit of a technical issue. The Just to let you know, when you were talking, it almost sounded like you were a robot voice for a second there. That's how bad it was getting.
How are we now? Are we back?
No, it still sounds about the same. Try one more time, maybe. Let's see now. No, no, we completely lost you now. No sound at all. Yeah, I think whatever you did, you completely muted yourself.
There we go.
Oh, okay, there you go. Okay. Oh, that sounds good. Okay, we're good.
Sounds okay.
Oh,
I would hate to leave it like that.
actually, it's a little every once in a while it still comes in. So, well, I think it's tolerable. I don't. Well, if it gets really bad, we'll pause again. But it's definitely still there a little bit. So, I'm trying
Better?
to see if. Yeah. Oh, yeah. That's better. That sounds much better.
Okay,
Good.
perfect.
There's a
I
lot of
changed the
scenes.
setting.
Okay. Okay. So there are some scenes in here. I don't want to bring up too many things in here that are it might be too gruesome for people. Um, as far as when the movie came out, people would remember this. I remember seeing lots of news videos about this when I think it was Saddam who toppled over when the Americans went in to Kuwait, and he didn't want to give up, so he just basically set all the oil fields on fire. And it was like amazing that this happened. It was devastating, of course. I don't mean amazing in the sense that it was good. I mean amazing. I was like, wow, how can anyone
Mhm.
just do that? It was just, and it was like the planes were the news at the time was focusing on all these fires and everything, and he went in there and got some pretty. I mean, that's the amount of pollution just pouring out right there is just unbelievable. But how did you feel about these scenes right here about like things of destruction like this?
It's definitely discouraging. It's hard to watch, and a lot of the time you don't fully grasp the grand scale of it and the grand effect. Like you're saying, there's a lot of research that it inspires you to do to see what exactly was happening.
The and the imagery it was so clear. Some of this, it's sometimes jumping. Whoops, dropped my mouse here. Talking about like imagery, the imagery as a whole. Sometimes it's so clear that it almost looks like they're using CGI sometimes. Because it obviously there's no CGI in this movie. There's no effects. It's all real, but it's just so clear in some ways that it comes across as being almost like there's some CGI added to it, which is really bizarre. You
Mhm.
step back and go, no, it's not. It's actually real.
Mhm.
One of the things that threw me
Like,
off
is this the end of the world that I'm watching? No,
yeah.
I'm still here.
Jumping back to the monkeys at the very beginning of the movie that were sitting in the lake. When I first saw these monkeys, it was so clear. I thought there was a person sitting in a monkey suit the first time I saw this, and that
Yeah.
I never realized. Oh, it's actually a real monkey. I was like, wow. So,
And his eyes, it's just so clear. It's so beautiful.
uh-huh.
Gets up really close, and the expression is, like you said, very human-like. It's so cool.
The This scene right here, yeah, this when it
Mm.
plays, there's something about the sunlight coming through and you have the light fog or haze, I should say. Um, and when it comes through the haze, it gives this effect. The way he pans the camera, I don't want to play it, but basically it
Mhm.
moves over, and as the camera moves over the statue that's in the left there, as it moves over, that's clear, but the haze makes the rest of it look kind of fake. But you realize, no, it's
Mhm.
real. It's just how he has the camera situated with the haze. It gives this
Mhm.
weird illusion that something's not real, but it's all real. And it's just done so well. I can't even describe exactly how I feel when I see that, but it has that really attention grabbing feel. This scene right here also, I thought this was a cartoon animation at first when I first saw it, because I saw the eyes and I thought, oh, is that a cartoon? After looking at it for, oh no, it's this is also real. It's just the way he has the lighting situated and everything. It really captures it. And it just, if anyone else had done this, it might not have captured. It might have looked. I mean, he does it in such a way that just captures and gives it this really interesting look that most other movies don't do. And when they capture something like this, I can't. I'm having a hard
Mhm.
time describing it because I want to say something, but I just can't put the words in there to describe how good this actually was.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's like a painting. It's like watching a live painting of the world. And I feel like a lot of movies try to do that in between telling an intricate storyline, so it gets lost. But in this movie, it's the main focus is all about the scenery. And as a photographer, I'm kind of like shaking myself because I'm like, oh my God, you can tell so much more in a video. Like these images are moving and it moves you in that way. And a still photograph, it's really hard to grab the attention like these movies really do. It's
Yeah,
amazing to see the progression of the imagery instead of just a flat frame image. And we've been going through and looking at them, and they're still captivating, but when you watch it play through, it has a completely different effect over you.
and then talk about
Very mesmerizing.
talk about photograph, like taking a photograph. Images like this right here are almost like you're watching a photograph. Like this woman right here, uh, if it comes up,
Yeah, it's
the
set up like a photograph, but he just lets the life come through the lens. It's
that's
really,
sorry, it won't come up here. Let me see if I can get it to
oh
come up here.
yeah, it's
Oh,
yeah.
there we go. Got it. Finally.
Beautiful portrait. But
Yes.
then you see them blink and it tells more of a story through that than
Right.
just a
And
still image.
he does that with a lot of people throughout this whole movie. There's a couple of there's a scene right over here, but this one has a moving shot with the monk is lighting the candles.
Oh,
Another
I
one that
loved that. Beautiful.
comes to mind is there was, oh, one second, where is three young Japanese girls standing in the subway. I thought that were it's just them standing there. They're perfectly still while the trains are moving behind them. Um, oh, and this is not what I'm talking about, but this is also an example of the still shot where they just and just pose there for a few moments while he captures them on film. Um,
Mhm.
trying to see where that is. It's not too big of a deal. I do know that this dance right here, these women are these are Japanese women that are uh, going through the Holocaust. This is their dance of the Holocaust, of the travesty of what the atomic bomb, not the Holocaust. I'm sorry, that's the wrong. The Holocaust is further on. I'm sorry. The when
Mhm.
the atomic bombs hit Nagasaki. Was that
Mm.
Hiroshima? And was it Nagasaki? I know it's Hiroshima. I can't remember the other one. I'm sorry. But
Mhm.
this symbolizes the death and destruction that caused, and that's what this death is. That's what this dance is about. They're symbolizing that. So, um, I didn't know that. That's like this is like another thing. I didn't know that until very, very recently. Like I'm talking like only a few months ago, I found that out. I just knew that they were doing some sort of a dance, and I was like,
Yeah.
oh, I have not. In a lot of the movie, I've just not because I don't want to. It's just I feel like it's just I just want to. I don't really want to know sometimes because I just want to watch the movie blending together with these images and getting back to
Mhm.
the idea. Do I want to know? I do, but at the same time, it doesn't really matter because it just flows so well, and it gives me a tremendous respect for everything that's in there. So
I agree. Yeah, absolutely. I agree. There is a lot of symbolism in there if you want to look, but if you just want to see something absolutely beautifully done, it's the perfect movie for that.
Now these images right up here where he's in the chapel, I don't know what this
Mhm.
chapel is. But if you go see the movie, there we go. Like that's the ceiling. I forget what that is. I think I have looked this one up. The chapel, this same chapel, I believe, was used in the original movie Kronos. So you can actually, I don't know, I don't think it was the same footage. I could be wrong. It may be the exact same footage, but I do remember seeing this in Kronos as well. So there's one more image where you have a still shot of a woman. There we go. Yeah, and she just stands there for the whole, for a whole, I don't know, 30 seconds or so, and just captured her. It's done. It's just done well. You would think in a movie that it wouldn't work, but it works perfectly for the movie. It just goes well. You're looking at it, and
Mhm.
no, I don't know of any other movie style, except for like the Baraka series and even the Koyaanisqatsi series that does this. I'm not even sure. I've not seen Koyaanisqatsi or those movies in a long time, so I can't actually say. But Baraka's been the one I've always been focused on ever since I've seen it. So,
Mhm. The
is there
only
anything?
I saw a recent series on Netflix called Moving Art that has, but it's all landscape and not any images of people. So it's all landscape, but it's beautifully done. That's by Louise Schwartzenberg, I believe. And that's on Netflix as well as Sam Surah. So you could watch both. And that one
Gotcha.
has a couple of seasons, but it's all of different places and landscape time lapses. And it's one of my favorite shows. It's very relaxing.
Hmm.
That's
The
the shot. Yeah.
yeah, I knew I'd find it eventually. Yes, the three young girls just standing behind, and the train just zips by them behind it. I believe this was done at a
Mhm.
higher rate. I think the train's going faster than it actually is. I could be wrong on that, but
That's the time
just
lapse section of it.
yes. So, but yeah, it's just so interesting. And then anyway, I've already basically said enough about that. But it's the same. I would say the same thing over and over again. Um, there's no other images I can think. Were there any other images that you could think of off the top? I know you just saw this, so it might still be. It's very obviously very fresh in your head.
hmm Yes, and I also compared a lot to Sam Surah, and it's interesting to watch this one recently. It made me want to re-watch Sam Surah again because there were some scenes that really grabbed me in the newer version of this series. Um,
Yeah.
yeah, I think that after watching this, I'm definitely going to revisit Sam Surah.
I will bring up that I did bring this movie up once before, back in December or January when Ann and I were doing the show. And what Ann and I did when we watched this is we actually analyzed, since she was a dancer, we actually went through all the different dances that were in there. And she actually commented, she made some very nice commentary on the different kind of dancing she saw. So it was quite interesting to hear this from a dancer's perspective. And
Mhm.
I didn't realize, to be honest, I never realized how much dancing is going on in this movie until she pointed out. She even said that you could even say that the men doing the monkey chant, the monks doing the monkey chant right here, even that would be a form of dancing since they're technically moving around in a motion. So that would be a form of dancing. Oh, it's not coming up again. Darn it. I
Mhm.
hate this.
Your voice is crackling just a little bit. I don't
Oh,
know
really?
if that's on
Is,
my end or your end, but it's
hmm. Is it like a technical thing?
just a little crackly in and out.
Okay. Sorry. How about now? I'm like right up on the mic. Does it sound any better?
Well, it's still crackling, but
Okay. Well, we can go ahead and wrap
oh,
everything up
there
then.
you go.
Oh, okay. That's weird. I
There
don't
you
know.
go. Nice.
Okay, it might have been an internet connection. I'm not sure. So, well, we can go ahead and wrap everything up, if you'd like. Did you have anything else you want to say before we go ahead and say goodbye to everyone?
I did look up the definition because I'm sure a lot of people are wondering what Baraka and what Samsara translate to and what language, because they are different kinds of names that we wouldn't see every day. So I did look it up. Baraka is Arabic and it means continuity of spiritual presence and revelation. And Samsara is Hindu and it's the endless cycle of birth and suffering, death and rebirth.
Right.
So I
I've
think
heard-
that does give a great summary about what these are about. If it was a piece of artwork, this I think would be the title underneath. So I hope people check it out because it is really beautifully done and it's inspiring to learn more about the world.
Yeah, I would highly recommend Baraka as the first one. Since I've not seen Samsara all the way through, I would also, I can't recommend it, but I would in the sense that since I honestly recommend it because I haven't seen it all the way through, I would still recommend it anyway. Obviously, what I mean is I can't give it an honest review because I've not actually watched it all the way through yet. I would also recommend the first one, which was Chronos, which is much shorter because that one also follows in the same area. But anyway, that's good for today, and we might have another show very soon. So thanks everyone for being here, and also thank you, Kelly, for being here.
Thank you. It's great to be here.
And we'll post the links for these videos in the description below. All right. Thanks, everyone. Have a good one. And hang on a second there while I disconnect here.
Perfect. Thanks, guys.